Hi guys, and welcome to part 2 in this series of videos looking at installing Microsoft Flight Simulator X Steam Edition right from scratch. If you remember, a few weeks ago in part 1 I dealt with actually installing the main program and then installing an add-on software or piece of add-on software called FSUIPC, which basically enabled us to set up controls like the flight yoke, the pedals, the throttle quadrant to integrate with FSX. In today's video, in part 2, I'm going to be looking at a program called EZDok Camera. If you've ever watched any FSX videos from other YouTubers, you'll probably notice they may actually be using EZDok Camera already. It enables them to set up different views around the cockpit and to kind of zoom in and focus on instrument panels and different gauges, etc. It makes life so much easier. It really does. And to me, although it's actually payware, it is one of those essential programs, and believe me, once you've tried it, you would wonder how you've ever done without it. You really will. So as you can see right now, I'm actually on the Flight One website, which is where you can actually purchase it from. And you'll see at the moment it's $34.95. So I admit it's not exactly a cheap program, but then again, neither is it actually extortionate. You know, $34 for what it actually does. I think it's an incredible purchase. It really is. And converting that to UK currency, if you are actually in the UK, as you can see there, the conversion rate at the moment is £23.46. So, you know, obviously it's your decision, but I'm going to take you through what it does, how to install it, and then obviously you can make up your own mind from that point on. So what is it? Well, as you can see here, it's a camera and effects system and manager that enhances the pilot experience in FSX. It offers view control in Flight Simulator for easy navigation throughout the virtual cockpit and cabin, around the aircraft and around the Flight Simulator world. So really, as I said at the beginning, it allows you to set up different videos. For example, in this screenshot here, you can see we're actually focused on the flight yoke and the panels behind. You can even set up, if you like, passenger views from behind the main pilot area. This is the panel which we'll look at later, the configuration panel, how to set things up, etc. And you can pan, you can change how quickly the camera moves, and all sorts of goodies. It really is a very versatile and quite a fantastic program. So, what do? Well, basically, once you've downloaded it, you get the Flight One installation wrapper, if you like, and this is what it looks like. Now, I have actually, because I've purchased this some time ago, I've actually got a Flight One license, etc. So when you get the installer, you will obviously need to follow different path to what I'm doing. I'm going for the reinstall option. You will probably need to go through a Flight One login if you have one, and enter payment details, etc., etc. But I'm going to go for a reinstall, and then click the terms and conditions. Does anybody actually read those? Reinstall using your key file. That's one option. The other option is to reinstall using your flight login username and password. I'm going to go for the key file. I'm just going to go for where the key is, which I think is there. That's the Flight One key. And then validate. Okay, then we have to enter the password for the order. Now, because the screen actually shows the password in full clear text, I'm just going to pause the stream, or at least pause the recording, enter my password, and then I'll join you on the next screen when it comes back. See you in a bit. Okay, so I've entered the password, and there it says, yep, we've got a valid registration, so we can now continue. Click OK. Would you like to extract it? Yep, that'll do. And away it goes. Now we get to the actual setup program. Yes, I agree with the terms and conditions. Next. Yep. Now when you get to the final screen of installation, you'll see this little box asking whether or not you wish to launch the program. You'll need to untick that option because at this stage you do not want to run the program. The reason you don't want to run it just yet is because you'll need to update the program. When you download it from Flight One, you are downloading version 1.15, and you'll need to update that to the latest versions before it will actually run successfully. Otherwise, you're going to have a nightmare. You will have all sorts of issues. So for the time being, untick the box that says launch and then click exit. And I'm going to open another browser and show you how to update the program. Okay, so here we are on the SimForums website, simforums.com, because basically once you've done the installation, if you did a search for updates available for EZDok, you're more than likely to find this link. And as you can see from the website, there is a version now of 1.18.7. That's the latest version. Now the latest version simply has compatibility with Prepared 3D, or Prepared, or Prepare, however you like to pronounce it. It has compatibility with that. Now, as I said, the version that you actually download from Flight 1 is 1.15. Now, if you look here, info for new users, after purchase, version 1.15, you should update to 1.17 and then 1.18.7. Now, the update to 1.17 is here, so what we'll do is we'll click on the link there. You need to update to this first of all before you go to the latest version. So click on the link, download it, and you will get, let me just bring it in here, you'll get a file like this. It's actually a zip file when you download it. As you can see, it's a .zip. Download it, unpack it, and you get an application. So I'm just going to run this as an administrator, and we'll upgrade to 1.17. Okay, welcome to the EZDok Camera 1.17 update. Yep. Click next, and we agree with the terms and conditions that nobody ever reads. And we click next again. This program will install it. Yep, good. It's not trying to install anything else, any malware or anything like that. It's all good, so we're okay. And that's been installed, so that's 1.17 done. Right, we'll get rid of that. Now what we do is we can download the next version. Now, because I do not have Prepared, I'm just going to go for 1.18.5. The reason being is this one, as you can see here, after the release of FSX Steam Edition, we made an update to support FSX Steam Edition. That is this version, 1.18.5, that will support FSX Steam Edition. If you do have Prepared, you will need to go for 1.18.7. Is that clear? So I'm going to stick at 1.18.5 because I do not have Prepared. So I'm happy with this. Now I've got the folder. Again, I've downloaded the zip file. It comes as a zip again. Now the instructions, I actually need to go back. If you just give me a second, let me just pop that back. I'm going to go back to, where was it? Here. I actually closed the link because I need to, oh no, I think I'm okay, sorry, my bad. Yeah, this actually gives you all the instructions of what to do. So I am on the correct screen. So when you've downloaded the zip file, unpack it, and here are the files that you'll see. You'll see here 1.185. That's the version I downloaded, and the files are exactly as it says here. What you need to do is you need to copy those files, all of them, all 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It actually says copy all files, so yeah, we'll just copy these. If I need to copy the SimConnect folder, I'll do that in a second. I'm just going to copy these 5 files for one moment. We then need to go into the program folder, which is in Program Files 86, EZCA, and basically we just paste them in there, overwriting anything that might already be there. You'll notice that there's a config file and there's the main EZDok application, so we'll overwrite those. We'll just paste those in. Yep, copy and replace. Continue. Done. Okay, that's sorted. Okay, so now that we've copied across the files, we need to continue with the instructions. So there's a little bit there about Prepared. It's necessary to install the SimConnect version from the zip folder. I do not have Prepared, so I'm going to skip that part. Now it says launch the config file on behalf of the administrator. So I'm just going to right click on config, run as administrator, and click yep. Component is registered, restart the application. So that's basically done what it says on the tin. It says here in the instructions the configurator will register some components and will suggest to restart itself, which it's done. Okay, so let's just come down here. Connect all joysticks to a PC which you're using a simulator. I believe mine are already connected. After restart, the config tool will scan the systems for all installed simulators and will suggest to select one of them. Select the version of a simulator which you want to configure. Now in my case, it's going to be FSX Steam Edition. So let me just actually go back to the folder and restart config, run as administrator. Okay, I've connected all the game devices, then close the simulator. That's fine. Right, so here we go. Now because I've only got the one version of FSX installed, which is the Steam Edition, it only gives me one option. Mileage may vary with you. You might have prepared, or you might have the boxed version of FSX installed as well, as per the screenshot here. Me personally, I only have the Steam Edition, so it's given me one option. So that's okay. Click OK. Now it says found 2 installed sim connects in system. We've switched to the 10 version. That's all good. Configure FSX files. Okay, so we just scroll down in the instructions a bit. There we go. There's some screenshots about what happens if it doesn't find sim connect, but we've got that. Okay, now we've got the main window of the configurator open, and it says be sure that the configurator has correctly defined the paths to the folders of the simulator. So let's just go back to our screenshot. If I can find it, there it is. So we've got configure FSX files. This is my particular folder, so it's got it in Steam Apps Common FSX. It's all good there. Track IR folder, I do have Track IR installed. If you don't have it installed, it's going to just blank it out like that. Press the configure FSX files button. Okay, we'll press that. And away it goes, doing its stuff. Right. So that's all done. Is done. All good there. Right, let's go back down here. So now it says launch the simulator. So we'll do that. I'll quickly pause the video, launch FSX, and then come back to you. See you in a tick. Hi guys, so I'm just about to go into FSX. I've launched the program. Now when the first time you run it, because EZDok Camera is a new addition, it's asking whether or not you want to install it, or at least my version of Windows is. Your security settings may be different, but I'm going to click yes, that's fine, I want to run it. Okay, all good. Now if I go into free flight, and I've got a default flight set up. It's in the default Cessna 172, and we're at Leeds, Bradford. Currently it's 11:50 in the morning, but that's not too important. So I'm going to click fly now, and it's loading all the gubbins, and hopefully when we get into the program, it's actually going to show us the EZDok add-on, the EZDok program, in the drop downs. Just wait for it to load the scenery, traffic, etc, etc. Okay, so what we do is we click on add-ons, and lo and behold, EZDok camera add-on. So last week we installed FSUIPC, or not last week, but the last video that I did, FSX part 1 if you like, we installed FSUIPC. Now we've got a new one in that list, EZDok camera. So we click on show studio. There we go. And this is what we get. This is the EZDok main window. Now, by default, it actually comes with several views already set up. As you can see, it's already guessed our aircraft name, the 172 Cessna, and it's set it up with several views. We've got the pilot view, which is the current one you're on. We've got looking back into the cabin. We can go to the Radio Shack. We can have a look at the instrument panel. We can go into the co-pilot seat, or we can go back in the passenger left-hand seat looking out the window, and the passenger in the right looking out the window. Now, there are several things that need tweaking, if you like, before we make any changes. The first, as you probably heard, when I'm changing view, can you hear that click? Now that really gets on my wick, so I like to turn that off. Now if you go into options, and I think it's in general settings, somewhere there should be the volume. I think it's this one, MMC. It could be that one, I think. CC on. I'm just trying to remember which of these ones it is, to be honest with you. Let me try that one to start with. Let me see if it's that one. Go back. Nope, it's not that one. Go back into general settings again. Turn that one down. In fact, let's just turn them off. We'll turn them both off. Actually, I think the ping, that one might be the ping that we get when we're editing. Let me just try that. See if that's got rid of the annoying click. There we go. Silence is golden. Right, so we've got rid of that annoying click. What else do we have to set up before? Let's have a look. This, by the way, is... I generally don't touch this too much, but it enables you to fine-tune various things like the way or the speed between camera shots, if you like, the transitions, etc. The speed of the hat switch. You can control the speed of the mouse, the keyboard, everything. It's quite configurable. In fact, it's very, very configurable. You can choose whether you want cinematic mode or to walk or to float. So have a play around with that at your, in your own time kind of thing. But I don't really make too many changes to that. I might make some minor changes, but by and large, I tend to leave all that as default. I don't think anything else needs turning off. I'm going to close that for the time being. What you will also see here, there's these are little indicators. This one here at the end that's green, Track IR, that stands for, TIR. I do have Track IR or head tracking software installed. I have both the original Track IR software, and also I've recently invested in the Track Hat Clip, which is totally separate. It's totally not related to Track IR in any way, apart from the fact that you can actually use the original Track IR sensor with it. So I do have head tracking software, which is why that's green. It's picked up on that. Okay, now let's just go through these. You've also got external views. You can go outside, have a look at the left wing, the right wing, propeller, tail, forward wheel, and even a handy cam, as if someone's got a webcam stuck out the passenger window at the back, which is quite cool. Now, by default, as you can see in the top right hand corner here, it's got a zoom level of 0.4. Now, I normally like a zoom level a little higher than that. As you can see, although we can see the instruments, we're, I think, a little bit far away from the dials. So what I normally like to do is to have a zoom level of 50 or 60. It depends on the aircraft, to be honest, because different aircraft are set up in different ways. So you may find you want a different zoom level in the cockpit for whichever aircraft you're flying. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is to change the zoom level on these views. We'll start with the pilot mode, so we'll keep on that one. And what you do is you press the number 2 on your keypad. Press number 2 and you'll hear a ping sound like this. Yeah. Now that ping means you're in editing mode. It means you're going to be changing the view, editing the view in some way. So what we'll do is we'll click on the actual FSX screen. Now to change the zoom level, it's the mouse scroll wheel. Yeah. So you move the scroll wheel and you can see the zoom level changing in the top right hand corner. I'm going to go to 50 to start with. What you can also do is you use the mouse to look around and make sure you're kind of correctly lined up with the seats. And again, all this is personal preference. You might want to be a bit lower down, you might prefer your seat a bit more forward, backward, entirely up to you. I'm just going to kind of leave it at that. That looks pretty good. I'm going to leave it about there. When you've finished editing, you press number 2 again and the ping stops. That is that view edited. Let me go back and show you. So if I go to the co-pilot mode, you'll see the view has changed, or the zoom has changed to 0.4. If I go back to pilot mode, it's now 0.5. And I think that's a reasonably good zoom level, if you like, for this particular view. What you can do, rather than sort of relying on these default views, you can actually make a copy of the first view and then keep the same settings. Let me show you. If I right click on pilot, you can clone the camera with effects. So I'll make a clone. I'll then move that up. By the way, I'm not too sure what's happening with the graphics there. It's kind of keeping a little bit from the other one. I'm going to get rid of co-pilot, delete that current camera. Yep, that's fine. go back to Pilot 7. I'm going to rename, you just click in the box. You should be able to just click in there, I think. Clone camera, how do I rename it? I've forgotten how I rename it. Oh, there we go, double click. So I'm going to call that Copilot. There we go. And what I'm going to do, because that's, as you'll see, that's exactly the same view now. What I'm going to do is to click on Copilot, go into edit mode by pressing number 2, and then use my right arrow on the keypad to go across the aircraft. I'm going to look down, make sure I'm actually sat in the Copilot seat. I think that'll do. Bring the view up again to about there. Press number 2, and that's set up. Go back, have a look at the pilot, and then the Copilot. I actually want to be down just a touch, I think. Let's try that. There we go. So, Pilot and Copilot. That'll do for now. That's pretty much it. What I'm going to do is to set up now some shortcuts, because as I said, you don't want this box on the screen all the time, and it's pretty annoying to have to keep bringing it up to swap between views. So, on Pilot, I usually set that to Control 1. So you click in the box, keyboard, set whatever keystroke you like. Mine's Control 1. Job done. Copilot, click in the keyboard box. I'm going to make that Control 2. Now, if I now just click off that, if I press Control 1, it goes to my pilot view. I press Control 2, goes to the Copilot. So that's all well and good. That's all set up now. I'm just going to actually alter this just a little bit more. Try that. So Control 1, Control 2. That's pretty much even horizontal there between Pilot and Copilot. And then that's it. You go and set up the rest of your views as you wish. What we'll do is we'll set up a brand new view for the switches. Now, I'm going to use exactly the same technique. I'm going to remain on my pilot view, right click, and click Clone Camera with Effects. That puts a new view right at the bottom. This is really annoying where the graphics are kind of remaining on view there. I apologize about that. Don't know what's happening. So I'm going to move this new view. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to rename it Switches. I'm going to move it up just below the Copilot. I'm going to assign a keyboard shortcut of Control 3. There we go. Now what I'm going to do now is go into edit mode, but I'm going to move down because my switches are kind of beneath the yoke, etc. So let me click number 2. Now I'm going to move my page, or click on page down on my keypad. Press the page down button and you kind of duck down. Now this is what I'm after. I'm after the switches. I want them all in a view at the same time if I can, so that includes the flaps there on the right hand side. So what I'm going to do is zoom in a little bit. Sorry, move forward. I don't want to zoom on. Now this is the other important thing. Let me just stop the editing mode a second. One thing I've forgotten to mention. Each of your views needs to have the same zoom level. If it's a different zoom level, you'll see it kind of go a bit crazy. It'll kind of jump and take a different zoom level before settling into the new view. Let me show you what I mean. If I go back to the pilot view, and let me do one to a view that we haven't actually changed, to the Radio Shack. Watch what happens when I go from pilot view to Radio Shack. Now, did you see that jump when we changed? I'm going to go back to pilot mode. Watch carefully. Yep, you see a little minute jump. It kind of glitches and then settles in. Watch again. Going to go to Radio Shack. Watch the jump. There. It kind of zooms out and then zooms in again. So this is why it's important. If I go back to pilot and then go to Copilot, you'll see there's no jump. Watch this. It's nice and smooth, yeah? No jump. So it's important, whatever zoom level you choose, make sure it's the same zoom level for each view. If you want to move forward and zoom in on something, rather than change the zoom level, use the up and down arrow keys on your keyboard. So I'm going to click on 2 to go to edit mode. I'm then going to use the up arrow to zoom in, effectively zoom in. It's not changing the zoom level, but it is moving closer, if you like, to the switches. So let's have a look. I reckon I might actually stay there. That's a pretty good view. It's got the magnetos and everything. It's got all the switches there. It's got the trim and the flaps on the right hand side. So I'm pretty happy with that. That all looks good. In fact, I might just go down a little bit more. Page down. One more. There we go. That's pretty good. So when you've finished editing, press 2 again. Job done. So now if I want to, from the co-pilot, or from the pilot view I should say, I don't have to go through the co-pilot. I can actually go Control 3, which is my keyboard shortcut, Control 3, straight down to the switches. Now I hope by now you're beginning to see the power of this program. It's very, very versatile, very configurable, lets you change views very, very easily and smoothly, as you can see, going down to the switches. Very, very nice indeed. Let's just go back to the configurator. So we've now got pilot, co-pilot, switches set up. I don't like the cabin view. I'm going to delete the cabin view totally. We do need the radio stack, so I'm going to edit that. Again, we're on 40 zoom, but again, I'm going to do it manually. I'm going to delete the radio stack. I'm going to go back to pilot, clone the camera with effects. So I tend to set up all of my views exactly the same way. I start with a pilot and then clone it and then change the view from there. So I'm going to call that radio, move that up below switches. Then go into edit mode. Oh, actually I forgot to set a shortcut. So we've got Control 3 for switches. For radio, I'm going to set that to Control 4. Okay. Now, edit mode. You'll see we're in 0.5 zoom from the top right, but we want to get a close-up of the radio stack. So you don't change the zoom, you use the up arrow to get closer. I also want to go down a bit, which is page down. There we go. I want to come out just a fraction, I think. I think that'll do. I think that's about good. So as you can see, you've remained in your seat. You're still in the same position on your seat as you have in the pilots. We've simply angled across and zoomed in, if you like, on the radio panel. So we'll press 2 again. Job done. So now I'm happily flying in the cockpit. If I want to look at the radios, sorry, that's wrong one. That's Control 3. Control 4. There we go. I'm looking at the radios. Back to the main cockpit view, or the main pilot view. Back to the radios. Okay, that's pretty much covered the basic setup of EZDok and setting up the views, etc. Basically, you just want to go through now and set up all of the views that you may need. For example, you could go back and set up some passenger views, or I don't know, you could kind of set up any view you wanted. You could focus on the fuel selector perhaps, or the trim. You know, at the end of the day, the choice is yours. You can set up whatever views you like. That's the power, that's the beauty of this program. Something I just want to touch on is to go back to define keys and buttons. If you have hardware, then what you can do is you can configure buttons on your hardware. For example, I've got the Cytec yoke. Now I've configured the rocker switch, one of the rocker switches on the Cytec yoke. I've configured that to go forward and backwards through the views. So for example, if I just close that down, if I click the up on my rocker switch, it changes views, goes to the cockpit view. If I go down, click the rocker switch down, it goes back. So I can cycle through the views just using my rocker switch, which is very, very handy. Another thing to look at, let me have a quick look. I think I've done everything in that one. So yeah, something to bear in mind. This is your controls, if you like. You remember which keys I was going, like up and down, etc., left and right, to control everything. What you might want to consider doing is to, if you're flying by keyboard and you don't have any hardware, to cycle through the views, etc., it does recommend, I mean, it comes with a manual and there's a manual online as well, but what you might need to do, in fact some people say it's essential, is to go into your controls and your button keys And for the views, for example, if I select views, it says you should disable things like A and S. You remember you've got, where I'm just trying to find the views. Here we go. So Control S, for example, to go back, where are we? Backspace. All the views, it recommends like A and S, and it also recommends all of your number keypad in FSX to delete them all. I haven't quite gone that far as yet. I've not had any issues, but it does recommend that in the manual. I do highly recommend you read the manual or look at some of the guides online, because you know they are dedicated websites and they give you much more information than I could in this short video. A final thing to take a quick look at is the actual selectors. These buttons here, you may have been wondering what all these are. Well, let me just go through them. Point to point, P2P, is basically point to point. That means that whenever you're switching between views, you're getting a very nice smooth view. Both of the views have to be set to P2P. If any of them are not, for example, if I go to Copilot and turn P2P off and then go back to Pilot, now do you see now it's just switching, literally just going between the two. There's no smooth transition. Go back to P2P and you get the nice smooth transition. That's what it's all about. 360 degrees, that basically enables you to go literally, as it would say on the tin, 360 degrees rotation in view. Point of view, that enables you to go up and down, which I was doing to kind of adjust myself in the seat, etc., or to go down and look at the switches, so that enables that. This one is whether you want your mouse looking around. This one is to enable zoom, and this one is to go for your track IR if you have track IR. Now these three buttons on the right, these are effects buttons. The left one is random, it's random movements. The middle one is dynamic head movement, DHM, which causes your head to go bouncing around in all different directions depending on what your aircraft is doing. And then camera resonance does a very similar job to that. However, in pilot view, because you might be trying to click on things or adjust your heading bug or whatever, you might be trying to click on certain things, I actually like them all disabled. I like a nice steady view when I'm in pilot mode. Copilot, it's up to you. You can leave them on. Again, it depends whether you might be clicking on any of these buttons and switches. If you think you might be, then turn these off. Switches, again, because you want to be not bouncing around all over the cockpit, you want to be fairly steady, I've got them turned off for switches. These are purely personal preference. The same for the radio as well. I've got them turned off. Where I do like to leave them on is probably for external views. Yeah, you might want to leave them random and camera resonance on for the external views, just so you can see your aircraft bouncing about a bit. But that, you know, is purely personal preference. So I think that is just about it. I think I've covered everything there. Joystick configuration, I think I've configured that as well. One thing I have configured there is to set up a joystick button to return to the pilot view. You'll notice if I click on Copilot, I don't have a joystick button, neither do switches, neither do radio. Excuse me. The reason is because if you're on one of the lower views, rather than having to kind of cycle individually through them, I can just click a button on my joystick and it goes straight back to the pilot view. That's very useful if you've got lots and lots of different views. If you were on external view, for example, go to an external view and I want to go back into the cockpit in a hurry, press my joystick button and I'm back in pilot view. One more thing to look at quickly before we go, and that's this button here, the yellow C button. That means that any of the views selected, if they've got the yellow C or the yellow background or the black C against it, that means it's going to be included when you scroll through. If I untick, for example, the Copilot view, let me untick that and go back to pilot. If I now scroll through, it goes straight to switches. Yeah. So forward, straight to switches, go back, it goes back to pilot. It skips Copilot entirely. That may or may not be useful. You might want to miss out some views. That's entirely up to you. So that's it, guys. I think we've pretty much covered the installation and setup of EZDok, albeit quite basic. I mean, there are, you know, a number of other things you can do with it. It's very, very versatile. It really is up to you now to perhaps, you know, consider purchasing. I strongly recommend it. I really highly recommend the program. I've been flying with it for many years now, and I really can't recommend it highly enough. I know it's £23, so as I say, it may be a considered purchase for you. My advice would be to have a look around YouTube, have a look at various people flying with it, and see what you think. Make up your own decision at the end of the day. I think that's about it for this one. I hope you've liked the video. I hope it's proved informative. If you have, click the like button. I'd very much appreciate that. And leave some comments in the box below. On my next video, part 3, I plan to have a look at installing SPAD, which is SPAD, which is SciTech Panel Advanced Drivers. For those of you that have got SciTech hardware, such as the yoke or the pedals or the throttle quadrants, the switch panels, anything SciTech, then you really need SPAD. The SciTech drivers by default are not that good. So SciTech Panel Advanced Drivers are here to help you. We'll take a look at that in the next video. Until then, take care. See you next time. Bye bye.